All right, let's talk about resilience. We all use that word, right? But what if the way we usually think about it, this whole idea of bouncing back, is actually missing the point? What if it's even holding us back? Today, we're going to dig into a totally different, way more powerful way to think about getting through tough times.
Yeah, you've probably heard it a million times, right? After something tough happens, someone always says, "Hey, you just gotta bounce back." But does that actually feel right? Are we supposed to be like rubber balls, just snapping back to exactly how we were before? I don't think so. What if it's not about going back at all, but about moving forward into something new?
And this is the big shift. The old way of thinking sees resilience as this static thing. You either have it or you don't. It's totally passive. But this new idea flips that completely on its head. It says resilience isn't something you have, it's something you do. It's a process. It's about taking real, observable actions to get back into your life. It's not about bouncing back, it's about moving through.
So that brings us to this really cool concept called resilience mobility. And trust me, this isn't just some abstract theory. It's a super practical way to understand how we actually, get unstuck. Let's break it down.
Okay, this definition is key. Look at the words here: functional, action-oriented, actively adjust. The big idea is that this isn't about what's just going on in your head or how you feel. It's about your ability to actually do things, to shift, to reach out, to move forward. It's about movement you can literally see. It's progress.
So how do we get this mobility? Well, the framework gives us this awesome toolkit with 3 main tools to help us get unstuck. First up, you've got psychological mobility. That's all about changing your internal narrative, going from feeling like a victim to feeling like you have some control. Then there's social mobility, which is about actively reaching out to your people, your support system. And finally, functional mobility. This one's simple. It's about literally getting up and doing things again. All 3 together, that's your path forward.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but what does it look like in the real world? This is where it gets really interesting, because this framework isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. It adapts to different cultures. We're going to start by looking at a few amazing examples from different African contexts, where the community itself basically provides the roadmap for this kind of movement.
And you can't talk about community in this context without talking about Ubuntu. You might have heard the phrase, "I am because we are." It's this beautiful idea that a person is a person through other people. My well-being is completely tied up in the well-being of my community, and this idea is absolutely central to how resilience mobility actually works on the ground. So let's take a look at a young Zulu man in Durban. He loses his job, and with it, he feels this deep, crushing shame, a loss of what's called isithunzi, or dignity. He pulls away from everyone. Now, the way forward for him isn't just sitting in a room talking, it's action. He takes part in a family reconciliation ritual, and he joins a community savings group. You see what's happening? That's social mobility. He's plugging back into his network. And it's psychological mobility. He's getting his dignity and his sense of purpose back.
Or how about this story from Zimbabwe? We have a Shona woman who is just paralyzed by grief after her husband dies. She's literally immobilized, unable to do her daily chores. The path forward for her is a specific cultural ritual, one that brings the spirit of her husband home. This ritual isn't just symbolic. It creates a clear endpoint for that intense period of mourning. It gives her the psychological permission, you could say, to start moving again. And that's functional mobility. She can get back to her life, back to her farm, back to her family. And one more, from a Maasai community. A young warrior is dealing with PTSD, and he's completely isolated himself from his group. The solution here is rooted in this idea of mutual duty. He's not pushed to talk about his feelings. Instead, he's given a job to do with others, something low stakes, like fixing a fence. Just that simple act of contributing restores his sense of purpose. He feels valuable again. He's moving from isolation back into the fold, rebuilding both his connections and his ability to function.
Now, this whole idea isn't just limited to Africa, not at all. To see just how universal this is, let's travel across the world to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and see how a Maori approach gets at the very same thing.
So in Maori culture, your identity is deeply, deeply anchored to 2 things. Your wenua, which is your land, your ancestral home, and your wanu, your extended family. If you get disconnected from those 2 things, it can cause a real crisis of self.
So imagine a young Maori woman living in a city. She feels lost, anxious, a state they call wakama. So what's the path to healing? It's a literal physical journey. She's encouraged to travel back to her ancestral land, her marae, to reconnect with her family. Think about that. The physical movement, that's functional mobility, is what triggers the social mobility of reconnecting with her people, and the psychological mobility of regrounding herself in who she really is.
And that journey creates this incredible internal shift. She goes from that state of wakama, that crisis, to a state of mana, which is this restored sense of power, of prestige, of knowing your place in the world. It was the movement, the action she took that made that transformation possible. Just incredible.
Okay, so we've traveled from South Africa to Zimbabwe to New Zealand. What's the one thing that connects all these powerful stories? It's this. Healing isn't something that just happens to you. It's an active process. It's about movement.
And that brings us to the single most important takeaway. If you remember one thing, let it be this. We need to completely change how we talk about this. Resilience is not a noun, it's a verb. It's not something you have, it's something you do.
So let's just quickly wrap up the big ideas. Healing is active, something you can see. Recovery is measured by your ability to move and connect, not just how you feel. And crucially, our communities and our cultures, they give us the pathways to make that movement happen. When you add it all up, resilience is just the sum of those actions. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. From now on, instead of asking yourself, how do I bounce back from this? Try asking a different question. Where can I move? It doesn't have to be a giant leap. It could be a small step, a tiny shift in thinking, a simple action. So take a second and think about it. Where in your world right now is movement possible?